Beneath 7 miles of crushing darkness, something ancient and unspeakable was sleeping until we pulled it up. The ocean has always terrified me. Not the waves or the storms, but what lies beneath them. The Mariana Trench is the deepest place on Earth, over 36,000 feet down. A black wound in the planet's skin where light dies, sound warps, and pressure can crush steel like paper. But earlier this year, a deep-sea research team from the Pacific Institute made history. Their submersible, the Argo, became the first to reach the trench's very bottom and come back with something alive. I know because I was there. We launched from Guam at 0400 hours. The sky still pitch black, the sea eerily calm. The mission's purpose was simple: collect geological samples and test a new class of high-pressure resistant robotics. At least, that's what we were told. Our captain, Dr. Eliza Warren, was one of the world's leading marine biologists. Brilliant, but secretive. She'd been obsessed with the trench for years, convinced there was something down there that science had missed. As the crew prepared the Argo, I watched her standing at the ship's stern, staring out into the horizon like she was waiting for something. When I asked what she was thinking, she smiled faintly and said, "The ocean keeps its secrets well, but not forever." Those words haunt me now. By noon, we descended. The ocean outside the viewport darkened rapidly, shifting from blue to black until it was like falling through an abyss. Every 1,000 feet, the hull creaked and groaned under the pressure. The lights from the Argo barely pierced 10 feet ahead, and even then, strange shapes flickered in the gloom, shadows that didn't move like fish. At 30,000 feet, the sonar began to glitch. Static filled the speakers, then rhythmic pulses, slow, heavy, deliberate. Thump, thump, thump. Could be a fault, our engineer muttered. But Dr. Warren leaned closer to the monitor, eyes wide. "No," she whispered. "That's not an error. It's a heartbeat." When we finally reached the trench floor, the camera showed an alien landscape. Mountainous ridges of basalt, hydrothermal vents spewing black smoke, and shimmering patches of bioluminescent organisms carpeting the seabed. But then, the lights caught something else. It was enormous. A structure? No, a formation, rising from the seabed like a cathedral made of bone. Spires, arches, and walls of calcified material, each embedded with what looked like skulls. "Jesus," someone muttered. Dr. Warren's voice trembled. "That's not natural. It's constructed." We maneuvered closer. The sonar pulse grew louder, vibrating through the hull until it rattled our teeth. The formation center had a fissure, a narrow slit descending deeper still. The pressure readings were off the charts, but Dr. Warren ordered the drone sent inside. Its light cut through the blackness as it drifted down the fissure. For a long time, there was nothing, just endless darkness. Then something moved. At first, it looked like a mass of tendrils or roots, each one as thick as a cable. They shifted slowly, pulsing in rhythm with the sonar. When the drone's light hit it directly, the tendrils recoiled, and that's when we saw the eye. It was vast, larger than the drone itself, pupil contracting sharply under the light. A single, impossible, ancient eye staring straight into the camera. The sonar pulse matched its movements. The heartbeat was alive. The screen went white, then black. Every system on the Argo shut down. We were blind, drifting in absolute darkness 7 miles beneath the surface. Panic spread through the cabin. Then came the sound, metal scraping against metal, echoing through the hull. Something was outside. Something huge. We heard it dragging along the sub like fingers on glass. The lights flickered once, twice, and then the viewports filled with something pale and slimy pressing against the glass. It moved like flesh but looked like stone. And then it hit. A sudden impact sent us spinning. We screamed, the cabin alarms blaring as the hull groaned in protest. "Emergency ascent," Dr. Warren yelled. "Now!" The thrusters roared to life, and we began to rise. The sonar pulse faded, replaced by the shriek of metal tearing under pressure. The entire sub shook violently. We didn't know if we'd make it. Hours later, maybe minutes, I can't tell, we broke the surface. The Argo was a wreck, half its sensors fried, and one thruster missing. The crew was shaken but alive. Except, not everything came back with us. When the rescue team lifted the Argo onto the ship, They found something embedded in its outer hull, something organic. A piece of that creature, pulsing faintly, still alive despite the pressure change. Dr. Warren wouldn't let anyone near it. She ordered it sealed in a containment pod, claiming it could revolutionize marine biology. But as the days passed, strange things began happening aboard the vessel. At night, we heard it. The heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. It echoed through the steel corridors, soft but constant, like the ocean itself was alive. One of the deckhands, Ramos, swore he saw something crawling out of the containment room, a trail of wet footprints leading back inside. The security feed later showed the door opening on its own, the lights flickering, and a faint shadow slithering across the camera before the feed cut to static. Dr. Warren dismissed it as stress. Pressure sickness, she said. But the next morning, Ramos was gone. His bed was soaked with salt water, and a faint, sticky film coated the floor. That night, I heard whispering outside my cabin. My name, repeated in a slow, deliberate voice. When I opened the door, no one was there. Just a faint smell of brine and the sound of dripping water. On the fourth night, the ship's temperature dropped suddenly. Frost formed on the portholes, and condensation ran down the walls in rivulets. The heartbeat was louder now, impossible to ignore. When we checked the containment chamber, the pod was cracked. The thing inside had changed. What was once a pale, gelatinous mass now had structure, veins, muscle, and a translucent outer layer showing movement beneath. It was growing. Dr. Warren was ecstatic. It's adapting. Do you understand what this means? But the rest of US didn't share her excitement. The longer we stayed near it, the worse we felt, dizzy, feverish, paranoid. Some swore they heard voices coming from inside the pod. Others saw figures moving in the reflection of glass. By the sixth day, it started breathing. That night, the ship's power died again. I woke to the sound of splashing in the corridor. The emergency lights flickered red, painting everything in blood tones. I ran toward the containment room. The door was wide open. Inside, the pod was empty. The walls were slick with salt water, and the metal floor was warped like something massive had pressed against it. Dr. Warren stood there, trembling, staring into the darkness. I called her name, but she didn't respond. When she turned to me, her eyes were wrong. Black, glossy, reflective, like the deep. "It's awake," she whispered, "and it remembers." The last thing I remember is the ship's hull groaning as something enormous surfaced beneath us. A shadow blotted out the moon. The ocean swelled, and I heard that same heartbeat, louder now, shaking the world itself. Thump, thump, thump. Something had come up from the trench, and we had brought it with us. The first thing I remember after the chaos is silence. When I woke, the ship was still. The emergency lights flickered weakly, casting dull red glows across the wet metal walls. My head pounded, and every breath tasted of salt and oil. For a moment, I thought I was the only one left alive. Then I heard it again, the heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. Slow, deliberate, echoing through the hull like it was coming from inside the metal itself. The corridor outside was flooded ankle deep in seawater. The air was freezing, every exhale forming mist. The storm that had hit us overnight still raged above, waves hammering the deck with inhuman force. But I could feel something else, something moving below us. Dr. Warren was nowhere to be found. The rest of the crew, 8 of us, were scattered, panicking, shouting over the intercom, trying to figure out what had happened. Then Security Officer Patel's voice came over the radio, trembling. "It's on the deck," he whispered. I saw it. "What did you see?" I asked, gripping the mic. There was a long pause. Static crackled. Then his voice returned, shaking. It looked like her, like Dr. Warren. But it wasn't her. The line went dead. When I reached the deck, the storm had softened into a relentless drizzle. Lightning flashed across the waves, and for an instant, I saw it, her. Dr. Warren stood at the bow, drenched, staring into the sea. Her hair clung to her face, and her skin looked wrong. Pale, almost translucent. Veins pulsed faintly beneath the surface, glowing with that same faint blue light we'd seen in the trench. "Doctor," I called out. She turned slowly. The reflection of the lightning flickered in her eyes, but they weren't eyes anymore. Just 2 black, depthless voids that absorbed the light. "The ocean is speaking," she said softly. "Can you hear it? I took a cautious step forward. You need to come inside. You're not. It wants to be free, she interrupted, her voice layered, echoing like multiple people were speaking through her. It's been trapped down there for longer than we've existed. It remembers everything, and now it's waking. Before I could react, she stepped backward, off the deck and into the sea. The splash was swallowed instantly by the waves. We searched for hours. Nothing, not a trace. But something else came back aboard that night. By morning, the corridors reeked of decay. The walls were slick with condensation, and strange marks, like the suckers of an octopus, ran along the ceilings. The temperature kept dropping, our breath misting in the air. The crew was terrified, half of them refusing to go near the containment lab. That was when we found Patel. His body was discovered in the storage room, submerged halfway in seawater that shouldn't have been there. His face was bloated, his eyes open, mouth frozen in a scream. His veins glowed faintly beneath the skin, pulsing with that same blue light. But the worst part, his skin was wet, even though he'd been dead for hours. Like the ocean hadn't let go of him. We sealed off the lower decks and tried to contact base, but every transmission came back garbled. The sonar was useless. All we could hear was static, and beneath it, something faint, a pulse. Thump, thump, thump. It was faster now, closer. That's when Chief Engineer Collins burst into the mess hall, soaked in sweat and shaking. It's under us, he said. Something's holding the ship. What do you mean holding? He led us to the viewing port in the engine bay. Through the reinforced glass, we saw it. A shape, massive, coiling, shifting beneath the ship like a mountain of flesh and darkness. The water itself seemed to bend around it. Each time lightning flashed, we caught glimpses, an immense translucent form, veins glowing faintly blue, stretching longer than the entire vessel. Then something rose from the deep, an eye, the same one we'd seen through the drone's feet. It blinked once, and the ship trembled. The sound of metal groaning filled the air, and water began pouring through the seams in the hull. Colin screamed, "We have to cut the engines. It's drawing power through the systems. It's using the ship." He ran toward the control panel. I tried to follow, but the floor tilted violently, sending us both crashing into the wall. A metallic shriek filled the air as one of the bulkheads tore open, and then we saw her again. Dr. Warren crawled through the gap, her movements jerky and unnatural, like a puppet being controlled by invisible strings. Her skin shimmered wetly in the red light. "Don't you understand?" she hissed. "It's evolving. It needs us." She lunged for Collins before I could move. He screamed as she grabbed his throat. Her fingers sank into his skin, leaving glowing prints that pulsed like veins of light. His body convulsed, his eyes rolling back. When she let go, Collins collapsed, his body twitching. Blue light spread through his veins. He opened his eyes, and they were black. "Can you feel it?" she whispered to him. He nodded slowly, then turned toward me. I ran. The sound of footsteps followed, wet and heavy, echoing through the flooded corridor. The ship groaned around me, the lights flickering. Every door I passed rattled, as if something was inside trying to get out. When I reached the bridge, I locked the door and collapsed against it. My hands shook uncontrollably. I could still hear the heartbeat, so loud it made the glass vibrate. Thump, thump, thump. Outside the window, the ocean boiled. The water glowed from below, and something enormous shifted beneath the waves, breaking the surface for a split second. Slick black skin, endless coils, teeth glinting like shards of bone. It wasn't just one creature. It was many, and they were rising. The remaining crew, 3 of us now, gathered on the bridge. Our radio tech, Mallory, tried again to call for help. Nothing but static. But this time, amid the static, a faint voice broke through. "Turn off the beacon. You must not bring it to the surface." We froze. "What beacon?" I asked. Mallory's eyes went wide. "The research beacon. We activated it before the dive." I remembered then. The signal we'd used to communicate with the Argo during descent. We'd left it running, broadcasting a constant pulse into the trench. A heartbeat. The realization hit all at once. It wasn't just mimicking the sound we heard below. It was answering it. We scrambled toward the communications room to shut it down. Every corridor we ran through looked different now. The walls damp, coated in a thin layer of mucus-like film. The ship felt alive. When we reached the control panel, the hum was deafening. The machinery pulsed like arteries. Wires dripped with seawater. Mallory pried open the panel, tried to cut power. "Almost there," she shouted. But before she could finish, a hand shot out of the dark. Collins, or what was left of him. His skin was splitting, light seeping through like cracks in glass. "You can't stop it," he said, voice gurgling, distorted. "It's already here." He lunged. Mallory screamed as his hands closed around her throat. I grabbed a nearby wrench and swung with everything I had. The sound was sickening. Collins crumpled, but instead of blood, a stream of black water poured from the wound. The heartbeat stopped. For the first time in days, there was silence. We thought it was over. We were wrong. The silence only lasted a moment before it changed. The sound that followed wasn't a heartbeat anymore. It was breathing. Slow, deep, heavy. And it wasn't coming from below. It was inside the ship. Mallory looked at me, eyes wide with terror. "If it's breathing," she whispered, "then it's not sleeping anymore." The floor beneath us cracked. A dark, glistening mass began to push through the metal, spreading upward like roots through soil. The smell of salt and decay filled the air. Something had come aboard, and it wasn't human. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The deck beneath us shuddered like something massive had coiled around the hull. The lights flickered violently, plunging us into darkness, then back into a dim, blood-red glow. The sound came again, that deep, wet inhalation, dragging air through the vents and walls like the ship itself was gasping for breath. Mallory gripped my arm. Her voice cracked when she spoke. "Eli, the ship's moving." I glanced toward the control monitors, all of them flashing error codes, static, and fragments of distorted readings. The coordinates shifted wildly. We weren't floating anymore. We were descending. The Helios, a vessel built for surface-level research, was being dragged down. The engine room alarms wailed, echoing through the corridors. I stumbled toward the door, trying to steady myself as the floor tilted, slamming us into walls slick with condensation. Every few seconds, a deep thud reverberated through the hull, as though something below was using the ocean itself to pull us deeper. Mallory screamed as one of the portholes shattered inward, spraying icy seawater across the floor. I kicked the emergency hatch closed before the pressure could take it. The sound of metal straining filled the air. The Helios wasn't built for the depths, not like the Argo. At this rate, the entire ship would implode before sunrise. We stumbled into the central corridor, where the emergency lights struggled to stay alive. Every bulb pulsed faintly, in rhythm with that horrible breathing. That's when we saw it, the first sign that we weren't alone. A trail of black water snaked along the floor, glistening under the red light. It wasn't seawater. It was thicker, almost oily, and it moved, curling and pulsing as if alive. It slithered down the hallway and disappeared around a corner. Mallory whispered, "It's spreading." I grabbed the nearest crowbar, the metal cold in my hands. "We can't stay here. If it's pulling us down, it means it's under us. We need to reach the sub-control bay and detach the lower hold." She nodded weakly, though I could see her trembling. We started toward the maintenance deck, every step echoing through the hollow, dying ship. The air grew colder as we descended. Frost began to form on the walls, the condensation freezing mid-drip. Our breath came out in visible bursts, fogging the narrow corridor ahead. Somewhere in the distance, we could hear a dull scraping, like metal claws dragging across the hull. As we turned the corner into the sub-control bay, we froze. Something was standing in front of the main console. It looked almost human. Its back was to us, hunched over, shoulders rising and falling with each slow breath. Its skin was pale and wet, glistening under the flickering lights. Hair long, stringy, and dripping, hung down its back. "Dr. Warren," Mallory whispered. The figure straightened. It turned slowly. It was Dr. Warren, or what was left of her. Her face was a warped reflection of what it once was. Her mouth stretched impossibly wide, eyes entirely black, faint light pulsing beneath her translucent skin. Her voice was layered, like a chorus of whispers speaking through her. "It's awake now," she said, "and it remembers you." She stepped forward, her feet making wet slapping sounds against the steel floor. I swung the crowbar instinctively, hitting her shoulder. The sound that came out wasn't pain, it was laughter. She didn't fall. She bent. Her spine twisted with a sickening crack, her limbs contorting as though her bones were nothing but soft tissue. Then she lunged, slamming me into the wall. Her fingers dug into my jacket, and for an instant, I saw the glow pulsing beneath her skin, like blue veins crawling up her arms, searching for a way out. Mallory grabbed the flare gun from the console and fired. The flare hit Warren square in the chest. Her body erupted in blue light, screaming as smoke poured from her mouth. The sound rattled the entire deck. She collapsed, twitching, then dissolved into a puddle of black liquid that steamed and hissed as it sank through the grated floor. For a moment, we stood in silence, the flare's red light flickering off the walls. My ears rang from the blast. Then the console flickered to life, or maybe it was reacting. On the main monitor, words began to appear on their own. Depth, 11,000 meters. Pressure critical. Biometric readings. Multiple. Mallory whispered. There's only two of us. The cursor blinked. Then a new line appeared. You are not alone. The console shut off. We managed to engage the emergency ballast release. The ship groaned violently as the lower hull detached, a deep metallic screech echoing through the hull. For a brief second, the downward pull eased, but then came the sound that froze me where I stood, a low, guttural growl reverberating from beneath the ship. It wasn't mechanical. It wasn't even human. It was alive. Mallory looked up at me. It's angry. Before I could respond, the floor buckled. The deck plates warped upward like something enormous was pushing from below. Cracks split through the metal, spraying freezing seawater in thin jets. Then boom, a section of the floor burst open. Something enormous shot upward. A mass of black tendrils, glistening with a film of translucent slime, wrapping around pipes and beams. The tendrils pulsed with faint blue light, and within them, I could see faces. Dozens of them. Human faces, screaming silently inside the flesh. Mallory shrieked as one of the tendrils lashed toward her. I grabbed her arm and yanked her back, but it caught her leg, pulling her toward the opening. The tendril burned through her suit, the flesh beneath it sizzling. Cut it, she screamed. I swung the crowbar again and again until the tendril split, spraying black liquid across the walls. Mallory fell backward, panting, her legs smoking. The severed piece of the tendril writhed on the floor like a living snake, twitching before disintegrating into mist. We ran. Every corridor seemed to twist and change. The walls looked like they were breathing, the floor wet and pulsing beneath our boots. The deeper we went, the more it felt like we weren't on a ship anymore. We were inside something alive. We reached the central stairwell, only to find it submerged halfway in water, thick, dark, and bubbling. The air smelled of rot and salt. We have to reach the bridge, I said. If we can't ascend, we send a distress signal manually. Someone will come. Mallory hesitated, tears streaming down her face. What if they find this instead of us? I didn't have an answer. The ship jolted violently again. The lights blew out completely, plunging us into darkness. Only the faint blue glow of the creature's veins lit the path ahead, shimmering through cracks in the floor. That's when I heard the voices. Faint at first, whispers echoing through the vents. Help us. Join us. It's beautiful down here. I covered my ears, but the voices were inside my head now, soft and rhythmic, like waves against shore. I stumbled forward, clutching a railing, trying to keep my balance as Mallory screamed my name. When I turned, she wasn't there. Only her flashlight lay on the ground, still flickering. The corridor ahead was empty, but the black water was moving. Slowly, something rose from it. A shape. Her shape. Mallory stood there, dripping, her eyes glowing faintly blue. She smiled, but her mouth didn't move right. It stretched too far, the skin splitting at the corners. Eli, she said softly, voice gurgling like water in a drain. It's so peaceful below. You'll see. She stepped closer. I backed away, heart racing, gripping the flare gun tight. My hand shook, but I aimed at her chest. I'm sorry, I whispered. The flare exploded, lighting the hall in a blinding red flash. When the smoke cleared, she was gone, only steam rising from the floor where she stood. I sank to my knees, exhausted, shaking. The ship groaned again, metal twisting, the hull screaming under the pressure. Through the remaining porthole, I saw it. The ocean outside, glowing faintly blue. Thousands of lights moving upward through the dark water. Not fish, not reflections. Eyes. Hundreds of them, hulking up at me. The ship was dying. Every inch of the Helios creaked like an old carcass being pulled apart by unseen hands. The air was thick with salt and static, the smell of rust, and something far fouler, like rotting fish mixed with decay. My flashlight flickered as I climbed toward the bridge, every footstep echoing through the hollow metal like a heartbeat. The deeper we had gone, the less human everything had become. The corridor seemed to breathe. Walls rippled as if lungs expanded beneath them. I could no longer tell if I was walking through the ship or inside it. The radio crackled alive suddenly, making me freeze mid-step. Eli. The voice was faint, distant. Eli, don't leave me down here. Mallory. But it couldn't be. She was gone. I saw her burn, her body dissolve into steam. Eli, she whispered again, her voice calm, almost hypnotic. It's so quiet here. The light. It's beautiful. You have to see it. The signal ended with a hiss of static. I stared at the radio, trembling. Then something dawned on me. The voice wasn't coming from inside the ship. It was coming from below, from the trench. The storm outside had grown worse. Through the narrow window on the bridge, lightning illuminated the black sea, waves crashing high over the deck. The water glowed faintly in places, blue veins of light twisting like roots spreading across the surface. Whatever we had brought up, it wasn't staying below anymore. I tried to send another distress signal, but the transmitter refused to respond. Every channel was filled with whispers, human voices, hundreds of them, overlapping, weeping, screaming, singing, and then, buried deep under all of it, a sound like laughter. I decided to go below deck again, to the storage bay where we'd first seen the glowing residue. Maybe, just maybe, there was something we could use to kill it. But when I reached the lower deck, it didn't look the same anymore. The floor was gone, replaced by something flashy, pulsing, wet. It looked like muscle tissue stretched across metal. The containment crates had burst open. The samples we collected from the trench, fragments of coral, small crustaceans, strange bioluminescent organisms, had all changed. They were no longer inert. They pulsed with the same blue glow, merging together, growing over one another in clusters like tumors. And in the center of it all was the tank. The glass had shattered outward, as if something inside had exploded. The water around it shimmered faintly. I leaned closer and noticed movement, dozens of tiny tendrils writhing beneath the surface. Then one of them reached up and touched my hand. The sensation was cold, but not wet. It was like being touched by static electricity. My vision blurred for a second. In that flash, I saw something. A city beneath the sea. Endless towers of bone and coral, glowing with blue light. Shadows swimming between them. Vast, ancient shapes that blotted out the ocean floor. And in the center of it all, something sleeping, curled like a fetus inside the earth, so massive that the seafloor cracked around it. When I pulled back, the vision vanished. I stumbled away, clutching my chest, gasping. My heartbeat felt wrong, too slow, too heavy. That's when I realized the rhythm matched its heartbeat. A sound echoed through the ship then, a metallic groan followed by a splash. Something had climbed aboard. I moved quietly toward the stairwell, the crowbar clutched tight in my hand. The shadows flickered across the walls, bending in unnatural ways. The glow from the water outside was growing stronger now, illuminating the corridors in eerie, shifting light. Then I heard footsteps, slow, dragging wet. I pressed myself against the wall, holding my breath. The sound drew closer. I could hear the faint squelch of bare feet against the deck. Then, a figure emerged. It wasn't human anymore. Its body was bloated, skin stretched thin and transparent, showing pulsing blue veins underneath. The head tilted at an unnatural angle, mouth slack, eyes hollow and black. Patel. He was the first to die. The first body we found drowned inside the storage bay. Patel. I whispered, my voice trembling. His head snapped toward me with a sharp crack. The glow beneath his skin intensified. His mouth opened wider than it should have, splitting at the corners. and from it, water poured, thick, black, and endless. He started to move toward me. I swung the crowbar with all my strength. It connected with a wet crack, breaking part his jaw. But he didn't fall. He didn't even flinch. Instead, he reached out, his fingers stretching like tendrils, wrapping around the crowbar and melting through it. I dropped it instantly. He spoke then, or maybe the thing inside him did. "Let us breathe, Eli." The voice wasn't his. It was hers. Dr. Warren's. I turned and ran. The ship was no longer a vessel. It was a tomb. The corridors twisted in ways they shouldn't. Doors appeared where they hadn't before, and behind every shadow, I could see movement. Hands pressing against the walls, faces forming and dissolving in the metal. I reached the observation deck and locked the door behind me. My flashlight beam swept across the wide glass window, overlooking the sea. That's when I saw it. The surface of the water wasn't water anymore. It was flesh, smooth, glistening, and rippling with veins of light. The storm above had stopped. The sea was perfectly still, except for one thing. A shape was rising from beneath it. At first, I thought it was another wave. Then I realized it was an eye. It was the size of the entire ship. The pupil dilated slowly, focusing on me through the glass. My mind screamed to look away, but I couldn't. The glow filled the room, bathing everything in cold blue light. My skin burned where it touched. And then I heard it speak. Not in words, but in thoughts. In memories. It showed me what it was. Not a creature. Not in the way we understood. It was the ocean itself. A living, thinking organism that had slumbered beneath the trench since the birth of the planet. Every organism, every current, every life form it spawned was part of its body. And we had woken it. The sound of metal tearing snapped me back. The window began to crack, spiderwebs spreading across the glass. The pressure outside was immense. I tried to run, but it was too late. The glass shattered. A wall of freezing water crashed into the deck, knocking me off my feet. The force was blinding. I felt myself tumbling, dragged down the corridor as water filled every space. I gasped for air, choking on salt. Through the chaos, I could see faces, hundreds of them, drifting in the water, eyes open, mouths whispering silently. The last thing I saw before I blacked out was the ship's name, Helios, breaking apart as it was dragged into the abyss. When I woke, there was silence. No sound of the ocean, no creaking metal, just stillness. I was lying on something soft. My head pounded. I blinked and looked around. I was no longer inside the ship. I was outside, but I wasn't floating. I was standing on something solid, miles below the surface. Light pulsed faintly beneath me, spreading in veins through the sand. And ahead, in the endless dark, I could see movement. Something colossal, something ancient. It opened its eyes, and I understood. It hadn't dragged us down. It had been rising all along. Silence. Utter, crushing silence. Not even the sound of the ocean remained. No creaks, no groans, no heartbeat. Just the oppressive stillness of a world untouched by light. My lungs burned as I drew breath. Somehow, impossibly, I was still alive, standing at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, miles beneath the surface. The pressure should have turned my body to pulp, yet I stood unbroken. The water around me shimmered faintly, thick and luminous, as if the sea itself had become something otherworldly. And beneath my feet, it moved. The ground wasn't rock or sand anymore. It was flesh, cold, translucent flesh, pulsing with faint veins of blue light that spread outward in endless patterns. With every pulse, I felt my chest tighten, as if my own heartbeat was syncing with the thing beneath me. In the distance, the ruins stretched for miles, colossal structures that twisted and bent in ways impossible for human design. They glowed faintly, their spires covered in coral-like growths that pulsed like breathing organs. It was the city I'd seen in my vision, the city of the deep, but it wasn't abandoned. Shapes moved through the murky water, slow and deliberate. Some glided on fins that shimmered like glass. Others slithered across the seafloor, their forms vaguely human but warped, as if humanity itself had been sculpted by the ocean's hands. Their eyes glowed faintly blue, their mouths opened and closed as if whispering prayers. I took a step back. The sand, if it could still be called that, rippled beneath me. A voice echoed through the dark, not from ahead, but from inside my mind. Eli. It was soft, familiar. Mallory's voice. Eli, don't be afraid. I spun around, and there she was, standing only a few feet away, bathed in the faint blue light. Her skin was pale, smooth, almost luminous. Her hair drifted around her like strands of ink suspended in water. She smiled faintly. I told you, she said gently. It's beautiful down here. Her eyes glowed. Not human anymore, but endless, like the depths themselves. What are you? I whispered. She tilted her head slightly, that same soft smile never leaving her lips. Well, what comes next? The ocean remembers every mistake humanity made, every drill, every explosion, every cut into its body. It was never meant to sleep forever. She extended a hand toward me. You can feel it, can't you? The connection. It's already in you. I looked down at my arm and froze. Faint blue veins were glowing beneath my skin. The same glow that pulsed through the creature's body, through Dr. Warren, through them all. No, I muttered, stumbling backward. No, I'm not one of. The ground beneath me shifted, a low vibration rumbling through the earth. No, through flesh. The lights across the seafloor brightened, racing toward a single point in the distance. A mountain. At least, that's what I thought it was, until it moved. The entire ocean floor trembled. The mountain rose slowly, shedding silt and debris as an enormous, translucent form emerged from the darkness. Its sheer size was incomprehensible, miles across, its surface shimmering with veins of light. Massive ridges along its back pulsed like living organs. Then came the sound, a heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. Each pulse made the water vibrate, shaking through my bones, syncing with my own heart. My vision blurred, and images flooded my mind, memories that weren't mine. The first life forms forming in the deep, civilizations crushed beneath waves. The ocean watching, learning, waiting. It wasn't evil. It wasn't good. It was life itself. And now I was waking up. Mallory drifted closer, her voice growing faintly distorted, echoing with hundreds of others, layered together like a choir. You freed it, Eli. You brought it light. And now, it will bring light to everything. I stumbled back, desperate. You're insane. It'll destroy everything. She laughed softly, bubbles escaping her lips. Destroy? No, it's not destruction. It's renewal. The surface world has burned too long. The ocean will reclaim what it gave. Behind her, other shapes appeared, the crew. Dr. Warren, Patel, Collins, their faces serene, bodies glowing faintly, floating just above the seafloor. All of them smiling. Dr. Warren spoke, her voice echoing directly in my skull. Do you see now why we had to bring it up? It's been waiting for us to evolve, to return to where we began. The heartbeat grew louder. The glow from the creature's body intensified until the entire trench burned with blue light. I could feel the heat, not from fire, but from pressure from life. The ocean was rising. The seafloor split open. A column of light shot upward through the water, tearing through the dark, cutting toward the surface. The creatures around us raised their heads, as if in worship. I saw flashes, the surface world above, ships tossing in chaos, waves rising higher than cities, the clouds glowing blue, the entire ocean beginning to move as one, swelling, shifting. It's beginning, Mallory whispered, her voice trembling with awe. The light touched her body. She began to change, her form breaking apart into streams of glowing particles. Her expression was one of peace, not pain. She smiled at me as she dissolved into the water. Come with us, Eli. Don't fight it. We were never meant to walk the land. I screamed. I'm not like you. But even as I shouted, my voice distorted, echoing underwater. My skin burned. The blue veins spread faster, crawling on my neck, my face. My vision flickered. My body felt weightless, like I was dissolving too. The creature's voice entered my mind, vast, ancient, and cold. They call me monster, but I am Emery, and I will return what was taken. My thoughts fractured under the weight of its words. Images flooded my mind. The ocean swallowing continents, cities falling silent under endless waves, humanity watching helplessly as the world became blue again. And yet, beneath the horror, there was something beautiful. Peace. Then, a spark of will, the last shred of me that still remembered who I was, cut through the noise. I pulled a flare gun from my belt, the same one I used to kill Mallory's imitation. My hand shook violently, the metal melting slightly in my grip as the blue light consumed me. "I won't let you," I whispered. I pressed the muzzle to my chest and fired. For a heartbeat, everything froze. The flare ignited inside me, a violent burst of red light colliding with the blue glow spreading through my veins. The two colors twisted and burned, fighting each other. Red against blue, fire against water. The creature screamed. The entire ocean shuddered. The glow flickered, pulsed wildly, then began to collapse inward. The light consuming the trench recoiled, pulling back into the fissure at the center. The seafloor trembled, cracking open as the blue light sank, dragged back into the abyss. And then, silence. I woke again, lying on a shoreline. The sun was rising. The air smelled of salt and smoke. Pieces of the Helios were scattered across the sand. I coughed, dragging myself upright, my body weak, trembling. The ocean stretched out before me, calm, peaceful, as if nothing had ever happened. But when I looked down at my reflection in the shallow water, my eyes glowed faintly blue, and beneath the surface, for just a moment, I saw it watching me, waiting. 2 months later, they found me near Guam, half dead and delirious. They said the Helios had been declared lost at sea. No wreckage, no black box, nothing but fragments of hull and equipment washed ashore for miles. I told them what happened. The trench, the light, the creature. They said it was trauma, pressure hallucination, oxygen deprivation. But when they ran my blood tests, they couldn't explain the results. High saline levels, the doctor said quietly, like your cells are adapting to seawater. That night, as I lay in my hospital bed, I heard it again. Thump, thump, thump. A heartbeat, coming from beneath the floor. And through the glass window, in the distance, the ocean shimmered faintly, glowing blue. The end.